floor. Place your hands lovingly in your lap or by your side, whatever is comfortable for you, and start to relax your body. Maybe you just allow yourself to focus on your breath. As you breathe in, just allow each part of your body to release and let go. If you're holding any tension in your jaw or your neck, I invite you to release that now. If you're holding any tension in your shoulders, just let them fall down. Let yourself be filled with this resonant presence of peace and relaxation that we call God. Breathing in peace. Breathing out, breathe out relaxation. Breathe in peace. Breathe out relaxation. Allow your body to become more and more relaxed here as we enter this moment of meditation. I'll be sharing a few words today from Reverend Bronte Colbert on the power of imagination. She says, "In this moment, I am aware of the presence of God flowing through me, energizing and renewing all areas of my life. I use my imagination, the creative power of spirit, to think about what I wish to see in my life. I let go of limiting thoughts and I relax into the playful joy of imagination." I want to invite you to relax into the playful joy of imagination. Allow those beautiful, wonderful thoughts and ideas to just spring forth. Know that you are a creative power, that you are co-creating the life that you want to live. And in this time of meditation, I invite you to just explore and visualize, conceptualize what it is that you want to bring more of into your life. As we enter the silence for just a few moments here this morning, enter the silence. Staying present for just a few more moments, breathing in to this creative energy and allowing it to flow through you in the form of your power of imagination. Let us affirm, I create big, bold, and brilliant imaginings. My visions are lofty and my dreams are awesome. Feel that power of imagination flowing through you, expressing in you and as you as only it can. Take a few more breaths here this morning, breathing in that creative energy, breathing out with gentle awareness, that imaginative spirit, that power and presence within you. At this time, I invite you to bring gentle awareness back to your body temple, starting with just fingers and toes. Maybe you just wiggle those gently. Maybe you allow yourself to gently roll your wrist or roll your ankles. Just put a little gentle movement in your body here this morning. And then if it's comfortable for you, maybe you want to roll your shoulders or roll your neck with just a little gentle awareness. And then when you are ready, I invite you to bring your awareness back to this time and space. How was that this morning for opening up that power of imagination? Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about imagination. We've talked a little bit about the powers of faith and power. Last week, Bill Warner led us on a journey into our zeal. Today, I'll be talking about the power of imagination, and what a powerful power this is indeed. So the origins of the word imagination has its roots in the Middle Ages. Yet the idea, the concept that it represents is much, much, much longer in terms of history. If you believe that imagination is a divine quality present within each of us, then the idea of imagination goes back to the very nature of the absolute. Humans have been expressing this quality of imagination through their storytelling, through their crafts, art, music, and the many other ways that they have been creating for hundreds of thousands of years. But this is just a human understanding of imagination. In the world of art history and archaeology, we can know that there are pigments that have dated back at least 250,000 years, knowing that mankind was using pigments in this creative way. But this is just an understanding based on material evidence. The idea goes back to the divine itself. But I want you to understand that imagination as a power is a process. It's not just something that you cultivate once and it's over and that's it. It is a continuous process. It is a process in which ideas are formed, crafted, and shaped so that you can bring them into expression. Imagination, as the dictionary defines it, is forming mental images or concepts of what is not actually present to the senses. In other words, we can't see it or touch it or hear it or taste it or smell it. but it is our ability to envision or visualize or conceive of something that isn't tangible. It's only in our minds. It's only present as a set of ideas, and it is expanding. Yet here's something to fathom here today. Every tangible man-made thing that is present in our lives is possible because someone, somewhere, imagined it. Is that mind-blowing for you here this morning? Think about this. From the cars that we have that travel on roads that we have imagined and built, to the clothing and accessories that we bring with us every day, to the homes and the furniture that we put in our homes to store all the things that we have that somebody imagined. Think about this morning. We have not limited ourselves to this planet Earth, though, because we have imagined beyond this planet. We have imagined and sent humankind and machines alike to explore space because somebody imagined it was possible. So take a moment to reflect upon this. Someone, somewhere, conceived and designed of the very clothes that you're wearing here today. Through your imagination, you put them together as an outfit, right? Someone conceived and designed the car that you drive, the roads that you travel on, the foods that you cook in the form of a recipe, the items in your kitchen, all that preparedness equipment that you have that allows you to prepare foods itself. The very house, apartment, dwelling that you live in that is your home, that you've made a home. Someone imagined it, and you, through your imaginings, have made it home. Think about that for a moment, how powerful imagination truly is. Now, of all the 12 powers, the power of imagination is by far the one that most resonates with me. Now, it's not that I don't think I don't have access to those other powers, or it's not that I think I am lacking in the other powers per se, but I've always seemed to be able to harness the power of imagination so easily, so readily. And it is truly my belief that each of us can resonate with one of the 12 powers in that way. There seems to be at least one that just comes naturally to us. We might have to work a little bit more at the others. So since a young age, I have always been what I would consider a creative. I've always used the power of imagination, whether it was the Think and Thing Club that I was a part of in elementary school, where we would take recycled objects and build stuff out of it. Whether it was the art that I played with, the paints and the supplies and the crafts, whether it was the music that I played. Whether it was the light bright, for those who remember those, that you had the completely black one form that you could put on that was blank. Didn't tell you where to put things, and you would take these little colored pegs and you would stick them in there. And I used to love to create designs with my light bright. But think about that. But here's something that's interesting that has been made aware to me over my time of creation. While I could always visualize my artistry, what I wanted to create in my head, I had a vision of it. Here's the idea. Yeah, I can put that down. What I've learned is time and time and time again, what comes out in expression is almost always different from my original imagining. So think about that for a moment. Now, sometimes the artwork, the things that I would produce, would turn out better than expected. Sometimes it would turn out not as expected, and I wasn't really thrilled with it. But almost always it was different. What changed? Why is it that so many artists, so many creatives have a similar experience where you think about, here's what I want, here's what the vision is, and the expression is a little bit different? Looking back, some of this is due to the fact that between the idea and the expression, there's additional process of imagination going on. Ooh, what if I use that color instead of that color? Ooh, what if I move these things in a different arrangement? Ooh, what if I do it this way instead of that way? Right? So part of the difference is that. But part of the difference that shows up sometimes isn't based in the openness of imagination. Sometimes it is based in the closeness of fear and judgment that comes with the creative process sometimes. The belief that, oh, it's not going to turn out as good as I expected it to be. It's not going to be how I wanted it to be. How many of you have experienced that? Everybody, right? And sometimes the power of imagination was too much for me to even want to continue to wield. I, at some points, wouldn't allow my powers of faith and wisdom and understanding and will to bolster my imagination. If the project became too difficult, if I couldn't skillfully execute what I had visualized, there are times where I abandon works, where I abandon projects. How many of you guys have done that? Right? Now, canvases, art supplies were readily enough available. I could start again, I would say to myself. But when I did, what happened? I didn't really want to work on that old idea anymore. I wanted to work on something new, something different. It might be inspired by that old idea, but I was ready to let that one go. Oh, it didn't work for me. Wasn't mine to do. Try something new. I, like many other creatives, have lots of abandoned and half-finished works. I, like many other creatives, have too many ideas to start them all. Ideas that have never left the pages of a sketchbook, ideas that have never left the pages of my mind. I, like many other creatives, critique my art and my process more harshly than anyone ever else would. Some might say that would make me as a failure as a creative, but that's not how I see it. I see it as allowing that flow of imagination to come through me. I recognize that I allow my power of imagination to flow forth readily, eagerly, affectionately, no matter the final expression, no matter if there is a final expression. And I would not be the person I am today up here in front of you if I had stifled my imagination and said, oh, I'm not creative enough, I can't do it, and had gone home, right? So I'm going to share with you a quote here this morning. It's one of my favorite quotes by Elizabeth Gilbert. She writes a book called Big Magic, Creative Living Without Fear. And if you've never read it and you are a fellow creative, we are all creatives, but especially if you feel like, hey, I'm a fellow creative, this book is for you. She says, quote, "What you produce is not necessarily always sacred just because you think it's sacred." She goes on to say, what is sacred is the time you spend working on the project and what that time does to expand your imagination and what that expanded imagination does to transform your life. It's the process. I have learned over the years that it's not the final outcome that really matters the most. It's that I have tried. I have imagined. I have attempted to put it into expression, and I have tried and imagined and attempted to put it into expression time and time and time again. I harness this faculty, this power of imagination. Sometimes it was to my liking. Sometimes it was to my disliking. But it was always, always to my benefit. I stretched that power of imagination into new, unexpected, and exciting ways that I couldn't even predict. Now, growing and expanding this power of imagination, it allows it to flow forth more readily, more eagerly, more affectionately. There's a part of me that loves this flow of imagination, especially when I feel I'm in the zone. Let's talk about imagination as a spiritual power, though, because as a spiritual power, imagination goes back to the very nature of the absolute. Our capacity of imagination allows us to unleash our creativity to envision and conceptualize the unfolding of ideas within mind. In his book, The 12 Powers of Man, Charles Fillmore, founder of Unity, believed that every form and shape originated in the imagination. It is through the imagination, he said, that the formless takes form. Think about how powerful of a power that is. It is through the imagination that the formless takes form. In other words, our imagination directly supports the unfoldment of the law of mind action. Mind, idea, expression. This is the way in which things are brought about. Consciousness, your thinking, the manifestation. That is the order in which things are brought about. And so the power of imagination underlies not just the law of mind action, but underlies our very principles, particularly principle 3. Our experience is shaped by our thinking. We shape our experience through our thoughts, through what we imagine. How many times have you imagined things you didn't really want to happen? How many times have you spent time imagining things that really wasn't to your benefit? Interesting. Have you brought forth things that you didn't really want to bring forth because of fear or worry or anxiety? We're going to talk a little bit more about that here this morning, because metaphysicians have noticed that as a 12 power, imagination can be both underdeveloped or overdeveloped in certain areas of our lives and in relation to the other powers. And you might be saying, well, how is a power, a divine quality, ever overdeveloped? And here's the thing, it's not that it is overdeveloped in that you are expressing too much of it. It is that expression in relation to the balance with your other powers. Are you giving that power too much and not bolstering it with the others? In their book, Power Up, the 12 Powers Revisited as Accelerated Abilities, both Bill and myself have noted that's quite the lengthy title. Quite the lengthy title, but a good book to read. Our prayer chaplain team's going through it right now as part of their training process. But Paul Hasselbeck and Cher Holton say this about underdeveloped imagination. They say, quote, underdeveloped imagination results in people who have little ability to visualize or picture anything that is not concrete or visible. Now, I want to be clear here. As what they're talking about when they say visualize or picture, they're not necessarily talking about just picturing things the way that we would with our human vision, right? The capacity of human vision. There are people who don't think visually, who were not given the gift of vision. They think in other forms. There are many people along that range between word and vision. What it comes down to is that those people have difficulty conceptualizing ideas. So I want to honor the range of neurodiversity here today, because whether you tend to think more in words or whether you tend to think more in pictures, imagination is about your ability, about how readily you allow yourself to form new ideas, make connections between ideas, bring ideas together in new and exciting ways. How readily are you allowing that to happen? Now, there's many reasons why you might develop an underdeveloped imagination. One of them is that often after we reach the end of our childhood and into adulthood, we're told to give up childish things. We start to lose faith in our ability to create, in our ability to play, in our ability to make those new connections as excitingly as we did when we were children. We don't have faith in our ability to imagine as we did when we were children. Now, you know it's possible. How many of you went out and imagined new things playing in the snow this week? How many of you open yourself up to that childlike quality again? Becoming a kid simply because it snowed, and it hasn't snowed here since 1989. So you know it's possible. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's your own judgment. Maybe it's some sort of mental resistance that you have that prevents you from allowing that free flow of ideas. But once you become aware of it, it's something that you can address. Affirmations and denial statements are a great way to start up that creative process again. But there's also what we could call an overdeveloped imagination. And this can happen when people, in the words of Hasselbeck and Holton, become what they call obsessive daydreamers. How many of you have had a few moments in your life where you were an excessive daydreamer? Anyone? When the ideas become more important than the ability to bring them forth into manifestation, where all you want to do is reside in your imagination and just, oh, this is a nice place, I'm just going to stay here and play for a while, to the detriment of interaction and creation. So one of the ways that we tend to overdevelop our imagination is especially in the areas of our lives where we worry about our future and we ruminate about our past. Right? We hold on to that fear, we hold on to that anxiety. We will tell you 20 different ways how something can go wrong before we can come up with one or two ways something can go right. How many of you have done that? Lots of you, right? So think about this for a moment, because I struggle with this. I struggle with the what ifs and the what could have beens. I'm not alone here. There are some areas in my life where my imagination is overdeveloped and it tends to take the road of negativity. It likes that road. There's a lot of storytelling on that road that will never ever come to fruition. But I want you to consider for just a moment what you might bring into your life if you were to choose to shift your perspective in even the smallest area of your life from a negativity to a positivity. So rather than getting into this storytelling of what could go wrong, allow yourself to go into the storytelling of what could go right, of what could really make a difference, of what could be your brightest and your best. Rather than worrying about a possible what if or ruminating about what could have been, imagine if you could take an ounce of that energy that you put into worry and put it into the creative action of positivity. If you allowed your power of imagination to focus on your good and what good you could bring into your life, what would you change? How different would your life be just from that simple, small shift? As a spiritual ability, we can use our power of imagination to call forth the Christ qualities that we want to bring into expression. We can imagine ourselves, we can imagine others, we can imagine the world living from the very best of their ability, from their Christ consciousness. How much of your time do you spend thinking about those things? Living from your best. This type of imagination is what we might even call affirmative prayer. Think about that. Visualizing the highest and best for ourselves and those that we are bringing forth in our mind, seeing them in their full Christ potential. But just like all of our powers that we've explored thus far, these powers aren't powers in and of themselves. They work together. They're bolstered by the other powers, and they best work together when they are brought together in harmony. So, for example, our faith in our ability, our faith in the presence of God within us, means that we have a better foundation of belief in which to express those ideas. We believe we are the creative power. We trust in our power and in our ability to imagine, and we are more likely to express our ideas. Through our powers of wisdom and understanding, which Bill Warner will talk about next Sunday, we are able to know and to discern which ideas to bring forth and the best way to bring those ideas into expression. Our powers of will and zeal, what do those do? They help us realize our ideas into expression by allowing us to stay the course. Our willpower allows us to get it done, to bring it into expression. And our zeal is that underlying enthusiasm, that fire that keeps our willpower going. Think about that for a moment. We all have the power of imagination. Our biggest decision is if we choose to use it, choose to harness it, choose to allow it to flow forth in us. As I conclude here today, I want to close with this. Imagination is indeed a potent process by which we, as expressions of God mind, bring forth ideas into this manifest realm. Imagination is what links us to that law of mind action. I encourage you, I invite you, please don't let fear, don't let negative judgments or resistance make you too scared to try. It is not failure to try and to express differently than what you have imagined. That is not failure. It is a practice, it is a process of harnessing, cultivating, growing your power of imagination, strengthening your power of imagination. The more you use your power of imagination to bring the life you want to live into expression, the more that you not only strengthen your power, but you inspire others to do the same. Isn't that what we strive to do here, is inspire and empower personal transformation? So I invite you to affirm this affirmation with me today. You've affirmed it twice already. I'm going to have you do it again. Through my power of imagination, I create the life I want to live. Thank you so much for your kind attention today, and namaste.
Thank you, Melissa. You know, hearing about how powerful our fears can be to block that imagination, I remember, made me think of that quote from Job in the Bible that says, where he says, The very thing I feared has come upon me. And it's so true, because if we give that negative stuff attention, it's going to manifest. So we have to keep that in mind. Okay, so now is the time in our service to enter into generosity consciousness. We want to take this time to thank everyone who has continued blessing our spiritual community by giving your tithes and offerings. We're truly blessed by your giving. So thank you to all of you who support this ministry. And if you feel led by Spirit today to give, we invite you to prepare your gift now. And if you're inspired to make a recurring gift, you can visit our website and set up a monthly gift through PayPal. But we now invite you to hold the thought of your gift in your mind and in your heart as we say together our offering blessing. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Amen. And now the music team